Why are you running? Don't run, sweetheart. Have you forgotten? You're the one who promised to marry me when we were little. I woke up to find myself spread-eagled and tied to her bed. The woman, a beautiful, terrifyingly obsessive CEO, pointed to a wall plastered with photos of me from my toddler years to college graduation. She stroked my face, her touch a mix of adoration and madness. To get you used to my scent, I've been adding a little something to your milk every night. She smiled, a chilling, lovesick expression on her face. So tell me, does my bed still feel so unfamiliar? This is how it started. I'd asked my wealthy older friend to help me find a job, something that paid 6 figures. I signed a contract without reading the fine print. Turns out, it was a marriage agreement. For 150 grand a year, I became the trophy husband to a CEO. I thought I was just a placeholder, a decoy, until her one true love came back to the States. So, right before the wedding, I took the money and ran. I was supposed to be on a beach somewhere, watching bikini-clad women while she lived happily ever after with her soulmate. Instead, I woke up here. I slowly savored the last bite of dessert, wiping my mouth with a linen napkin. Across the table, Summer Caldwell sipped her iced tea with an effortless grace that always made me feel a little clumsy. Finally, I worked up the nerve. Summer, you've been in the corporate world forever. Any chance you could hook me up with a job? I really don't want to be unemployed the day after I graduate. The words fell hot on my cheeks. A grown man asking a woman for a job. It felt pathetic. Summer set down her glass. A perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched, and a faint smile played on her lips. Still haven't found anything? Why don't you just come work for me? She said it so casually, but the words hit me like a lightning strike. The hope I'd smothered for months flared back to life. My posture changed instantly. I leaned forward, my voice practically an octave higher, a shameless grin plastered on my face. Thank you, Summer. You're a lifesaver. It looks like I, Ethan Cole, am destined to be your kept man for life. We finished our lunch, laughing and joking as we walked back towards campus. On the way, I thought about how we'd met. It was back in middle school. I loved hiking and had organized a trip with a few classmates. Halfway up the mountain, we found Summer, alone, with a sprained ankle. Her eyes were red from the pain. Without a second thought, I'd piggybacked her all the way to the cable car station. Just like that, we exchanged numbers and became friends. She was a few years older, always acting like a cool big sister. To this day, I had no idea what her family did or where she worked. Every time I asked, she'd skillfully dodge the question. All I knew was that she was rich. Seriously rich. Whenever she came to visit me at college, she'd be driving some sleek, European luxury car I couldn't even name. She'd pay for everything and buy me a mountain of snacks to share with my roommates. That car, parked outside the dorms, was what earned me the nickname the Kept Man. I shook my head with a wry smile. It looked like that nickname was about to be permanently welded to my identity. Back in my dorm room, I crashed on my bed. The next morning, just as the sky was turning a hazy gray, my phone let out a piercing shriek. I fumbled for it, half asleep. A sickeningly sweet, professional female voice chirped on the other end. Good morning. Am I speaking with Mr. Ethan Cole? This is Zenith Dynamics, calling to schedule an interview for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Zenith Dynamics? I shot up in bed, instantly wide awake. The sudden movement was so violent that my roommate on the top bunk, who'd been snoring like a freight train, yelped and nearly rolled off. Zenith Dynamics, one of the biggest tech giants in the country. A company so far out of my league, I hadn't even bothered to submit a resume. After hanging up, I was still dazed. Damn, I muttered. Scammers are getting really sophisticated these days. Posing as Zenith now. Still suspicious. I sent a quick text to Summer. Hey, was the Zenith Dynamics interview you're doing? A winking emoji popped up almost immediately, followed by another message. Who else? Stick with me, kid. You'll be living the good life. Before I could even reply, my roommates were awake, crowding around my bed with their hair sticking up in every direction. Holy shit, Ethan. Zenith Dynamics. You're gonna be rich, dude. Don't forget about us when you make it big. No way, man. Was it that rich chick in a fancy car who set this up? You're literally set for life. Hearing them call her a rich chick, my face flushed. No way, I said, trying to sound offended. I got this on my own merit, obviously. But inside, I was soaring. My roommates didn't buy my bullshit for a second. They immediately started acting as my personal hype squad. Ethan, you gotta get a haircut, man. Now, you can rent a suit from that dry cleaners downtown. You have to look sharp. Let's see your resume. We can punch it up, make it sound more corporate. They pushed and prodded me, and though I mumbled, it's fine, guys, really, I let them sit me down in a chair. For that moment, I was the king of the dorm, basking in their envy and admiration. I took a deep breath. my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anticipation for tomorrow. Maybe being a kept man wasn't so bad after all. The next day, I bit the bullet and called an Uber. It was the most extravagant thing I'd done in my entire job search. Through the window, the Zenith Dynamics headquarters loomed like a beast of steel and glass, a silent titan in the heart of the city. I had to crane my neck until it ached just to see the top. 3 28-story towers were connected at the 20th floor by 3 fully transparent glass skybridges. They glittered in the sunlight, like pathways to Olympus. My heart bled a little as I paid the fare. My feet felt like they were walking on clouds as I stepped through the revolving glass doors. "Hello, may I see your employee badge?" A security guard stopped me. My face flushed. "I'm here for an interview," I mumbled. Just then, a woman in a sharp business suit walked over from the reception desk, a practiced, professional smile on her face. "Hello, sir. May I have your name? And do you have an appointment?" "My name is Ethan Cole. I have an interview at 10. The moment I said my name, the receptionist's smile transformed. It became genuine, warmer, and tinged with an unmistakable enthusiasm. "Oh, Mr. Cole, right this way." Without another word, she swiped her key card, and the security gate beeped open. I followed her, feeling completely out of my depth. "Excuse me," I said, trying to make small talk. "Where do the interviews usually take place?" "I'll just take you there," she said, her smile widening. We rode an elevator with walls so polished they reflected my nervous face back at me. The floor numbers climbed rapidly, never stopping. "So, are there a lot of other people interviewing today?" I asked, just to fill the silence. The receptionist glanced at me, her expression a strange mix of surprise and amusement. She didn't answer, just maintained that enigmatic smile. Ding! The elevator doors slid open. Floor 28. The top floor. "Mr. Cole, just follow the hallway to the end. The last office is yours." I thanked her, took a deep breath, and started walking. The carpet was so plush it muffled my footsteps completely. Big companies were on another level. Even the interviews were on the top floor. What a power move. I gave myself a mental pep talk as I reached the end of the hall. Then I froze. The plaque on the door was engraved with 3 simple, terrifying words. Chief Executive Officer. My brain short-circuited. Was a receptionist trying to sabotage me? Who gets interviewed by the CEO? This made no sense. As I stood there, debating whether to turn and run, the door to an adjacent office opened. A woman in a tailored black dress suit, emanating an air of cool competence, stepped out. She saw me, paused for a second, then broke into a grin she couldn't quite suppress. She said nothing. She just walked over, put a hand on my shoulder, and pushed open the CEO's office door. Then, she shoved me inside. The door clicked shut behind me with a soft thud. "You're here for the interview, right? Have a seat," the woman said, her smile growing wider. I sat down on a leather sofa like a puppet whose strings had just been cut. Am I in the right place? Why is the interview in the CEO's office? Are there any other candidates here?" she asked playfully, ignoring my question as she walked over to a small bar to make coffee. The office was unnervingly quiet. I was so awkward my toes were trying to dig a hole through the soles of my shoes. She came back with 2 mugs of coffee. "The interview is right here. The CEO will be conducting it personally." She handed one to me. "As for the other candidates, well, you're the only one today." She added, "I'm Nicole Vance, by the way, former executive assistant to the CEO. You can call me Ms. Vance, general manager." My head was spinning, trying to process this insane amount of information. The office door opened again. This time, I knew the person who walked in. It was Summer. She was holding 2 boba teas. She glanced at the coffee in my hand, then at Nicole, and said, "He doesn't drink coffee. He can't handle anything bitter." With that, she pushed one of the plastic-sealed cups into my hand. I took it automatically, the cold plastic a grounding shock. I stared at her. She was wearing a perfectly tailored women's suit, a world away from her usual casual style. She walked straight to the massive mahogany desk, sank into the plush leather throne that belonged to the CEO, and crossed her legs. Her hands clasped together on the desk. She looked at me with a triumphant, knowing smile. "You're looking at her." She paused, letting it sink in. "And you've been under observation for years. No interview necessary. You passed." The boba tea nearly slipped from my grasp. Summer was the CEO. I was completely and utterly screwed. I took a huge, desperate slurp of boba tea, hoping the sugary sweetness could calm the tidal wave crashing in my head. I licked my lips and forced a smile that felt more like a grimace. "Summer, you really had me fooled." I tried to sound charming, but it came out pathetic. "I guess I really can't handle anything bitter. I need a sweet life, courtesy of you." My shamelessness made her laugh, a melodic sound that filled the cavernous office. She leaned back in her throne-like chair, a playful glint in her eyes. Then, she pulled a stack of papers from a drawer in the enormous desk. Thwack! She tossed the document onto the coffee table in front of me. The job description is very simple, she said, her voice a low, lazy purr. $25,000 a month after taxes. Full benefits, weekends off, 9 to 5. No overtime, ever. My brain flatlined. I didn't hear another word she said. $25,000 a month. Almost launched myself off the sofa. I'll sign it right now. I snatched the pen from the table, not even glancing at the contract. I scrawled my name, Ethan Cole, in a messy, excited rush, terrified she'd change her mind. Only after I'd signed did I remember the process. So Ms. Caldwell, no interview for real? I'm already hired. Summer looked at me, a sly, predatory glint in her eyes. I'd recommend you read the contract you just signed. The title, specifically. A rock dropped into my stomach. I had a very, very bad feeling about this. I looked down at the document. The cover page had 3 words printed in a large, bold font. 3 words that felt like hammers slamming into my skull. Marriage contract agreement. I was stunned. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was hallucinating. Nope. Still there. My hands trembled as I flipped it open. It was all there in black and white. Party A, Summer Caldwell. Party B, Ethan Cole. Party B, Ethan Cole, would receive a monthly salary of $25,000. In return, he would be required to cooperate with Party A, Summer Caldwell, in all matters related to deceiving her family, playing the role of a loving, doting husband. The more convincing, the better. Even more insane was the golden parachute clause. If Party A, Summer Caldwell, develops genuine romantic feelings for Party B, Ethan Cole, resulting in a physical relationship, Party B will not be held liable for any emotional damages. On the contrary, Party A will provide a one-time compensation payment of $1 million to Party B. My mind went blank. Was this a worker's paradise or a gilded trap? My last shred of self-preservation kicked in, and I found what I thought was a loophole. I only signed it, I said, my voice shaky. My thumbprint isn't on it, so it's not legally binding, right? I thought I still had a chance. Summer stood up, a slow, predatory smile spreading across her face. She walked towards me, the clicks of her heels on the hardwood floor echoing my frantic heartbeat. Let me see. She leaned over me, and a wave of her intoxicating perfume washed over me. The next second, her hand shot out and grabbed my right thumb. Before I could react, she pressed it firmly onto a red ink pad sitting beside the contract. Cold, red, final, thump. A perfect crimson thumbprint landed right next to my messy signature. There, she said, straightening up, her face glowing with triumph. Now it's binding. I stared at the red mark, dumbfounded. I had been completely outplayed. From the job offer to the interview, the contract to the thumbprint, I was a puppet, and she had been holding the strings the entire time. Humiliation, helplessness, and a strange, terrifying flicker of excitement warred within me. Summer picked up the contract that now dictated my fate, placing it carefully into a folder. Then, she took a car key from her purse and tossed it to me. It traced a perfect arc through the air and landed in my hand with a cold, metallic weight. Can you drive? I nodded numbly. Yes. I sat rigidly in the driver's seat, my palms sweating so much the cool metal of the key felt slick and heavy. The interior of this luxury sedan, a brand I didn't even recognize, smelled of expensive leather and made me afraid to breathe too deeply. I started the car with a trembling hand. The engine purred to life with a soft tremor that mirrored the shaking in my own chest. I drove slowly, painfully slowly. Bicyclists on the sidewalk were probably passing me. My eyes were glued to the road, terrified that one wrong move would cost me the next decade of my salary. Can you drive any faster? A turtle could beat you. Summer's voice cut in from the passenger seat, laced with impatience. I risked a glance at her in the rearview mirror, forcing a pathetic, eager-to-please smile. Just looking out for your safety, Ms. Caldwell. Safety first. She ignored my terrible joke. Instead, she changed the subject, or rather, dropped the same bomb all over again. You know where we're going, right? My heart stuttered. To the office? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The courthouse. The 2 words were delivered with a casual finality that felt like 3 knives stabbing me in the chest. My hand jerked on the wheel, and the car swerved slightly. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding against my ribs. Wait, Summer. Ms. Caldwell. I was panicking now, all pretense of formality gone. Can't we just get a fake license? The fakes these days are amazing. You can't even tell the difference. Do we have to do this for real? My voice was trembling. I'll be divorced before I'm even properly married. And for you, a woman. What will people say? Summer turned her head, a smirk playing on her lips. She looked at me like I was a naive child. My family will check. They'll find out. Her words slammed the door on any hope of escape. Then, with a flicker of that same cunning I was beginning to recognize, she added, "What are you so afraid of? If it doesn't work out, we'll just get a divorce. Then we can both go our separate ways." Separate ways. The words sounded predatory. My mind was racing. I was still muttering to myself, a last-ditch effort. But this is too fast. Sign a contract, get married, talk about divorce on the same day. Divorce. That's all you can talk about. Summer's voice turned icy. We don't even have the certificate yet, and you're already planning the exit strategy? Let me tell you something, Ethan. You walk away from this. You walk away from the best job you will ever have. It was a blatant threat. I shut my mouth. She was right. Where else was I going to find a job that paid this much? Defeated, I pressed the accelerator. The car finally picked up speed, heading toward a destination I had never, in my wildest dreams, imagined visiting. The rest of the day was a blur, like a movie on fast forward. At the courthouse, we didn't wait in any lines. A clerk met us and escorted us to a private office. Filling out forms, taking a photo, reciting vows. I was in a daze the entire time, a marionette with Summer pulling the strings. When the clerk handed me the two crisp, official-looking marriage certificates, the moment still felt completely surreal. I stared at the document, at the photo of me and Summer side by side. My smile in the picture was more like a pained grimace. Yesterday, I was a desperate, unemployed college grad. Today, I was a married man, and my wife was a CEO wealthy enough to be on the Forbes list. Life was more terrifying than any roller coaster. What are you staring at? Drive. Summer's voice jolted me back to reality. I robotically started the car, my mind a complete blank. Where to now? Summer smoothed her hair, her tone leaving no room for argument. Home. My parents' house. My stomach dropped. We're meeting your parents already? Summer, I'm not prepared for this at all. She turned to me, a playful glint in her eyes, and said something that made me want to rip the steering wheel out of the dashboard. The ugly husband has to meet the in-laws sometime. Don't worry, my parents are very easygoing. The car glided into a neighborhood I'd only ever seen in issues of Architectural Digest. Each mansion was a modern fortress, nestled quietly among manicured lawns and ancient trees. A slick layer of sweat coated my palms on the steering wheel. The ugly husband has to meet the in-laws sometime. Summer's words echoed in my head like a curse. We pulled up to a stunning white villa. Before I could even take a deep breath, Summer issued a command from the passenger seat, her voice quiet but absolute. Move the gifts to your left arm. Keep your right hand free. I stared at her. Is that really necessary? She didn't look at me. Her gaze was fixed on the villa's front door, which was already opening. A cool, detached smile touched her lips. Did you forget the contract? The performance has to be convincing. A herd of angry elephants stampeded through my mind, but I did as I was told. The second, I had a pile of exquisitely wrapped boxes balanced on my left arm. A warm, soft hand slipped into my right. It was Summer. She had taken my hand. Her touch was delicate, with a faint coolness that felt less like an embrace and more like a shackle. My heart skipped a beat, not from romance, but from pure, unadulterated panic. As we reached the door, two people were waiting, a man and a woman, both in their early 50s, dressed in clothes that screamed effortless wealth. Summer's father wore a simple linen shirt, but his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. Her mother, in a tailored silk dress, offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. They stood there, emanating an invisible force field of power that locked onto me, the intruder. I felt like I'd been stripped naked and was being appraised, every flaw cataloged. The air grew thick and heavy. I plastered a stiff smile on my face, my throat dry, every pre-rehearsed greeting evaporating from my mind. Just as the pressure became unbearable, Summer's father spoke, his voice surprisingly gentle. You must be Ethan. It was a long drive. Please come in. Summer's mother's smile suddenly became genuine. Yes, come in. Dinner's ready. Summer, honestly, keeping such wonderful news from us until now. This sudden warmth threw me even more off balance. This wasn't in the script. Weren't they supposed to look down on me, grill me, and then slide a check across the table with instructions to disappear? Dinner was bizarrely pleasant. The long mahogany table was laden with gourmet dishes, but I barely tasted a thing. Each bite felt like chewing on sawdust. As I was trying to make myself invisible by focusing on my food, Summer's mother put down her chopsticks. She looked at me, a slow, appraising smile on her face. You know, Ethan, I much prefer you, she said, then shot a pointed glance at Summer. That Leo Flynn you brought around before. He had no backbone. Not a real man at all. Cough, cough. I nearly choked on a mouthful of rice, my face turning crimson. Was I supposed to be hearing this? This was definitely above my pay grade. I ducked my head, pretending to cough, but my ears were pricked up like a German shepherd's. Leo Flynn. The name hit my brain like a bullet. It all clicked into place. The contract marriage, the ridiculous salary. I was a shield, a pawn brought in to piss off the real love of her life, this Leo Flynn. Warning bells screamed in my head. This cushy job was actually a high-risk position. The moment Leo Flynn returned, I'd be kicked to the curb. That $1 million compensation? It was severance pay. To smooth things over, or maybe just to signal their approval of me. Summer's parents began gleefully sharing her most embarrassing childhood stories. You know, Ethan, our Summer was still wetting the bed when she was 3, and when she was 5, she fell asleep at the dinner table and face-planted right into a bowl of chicken noodle soup. We pulled her out, and she had little bits of carrot and celery stuck in her hair. All I could do was sit there, grinning awkwardly and letting out a series of hollow ha-has. I snuck a glance at Summer. The powerful, unflappable CO was blushing from her ears all the way down to her neck. She glared at her parents, sputtering, "Mom, Dad, why are you telling him everything?" Seeing her so flustered, so unable to retaliate, I felt a strange, inappropriate little thrill of satisfaction. I sat in a stunned silence as we left her parents' house, letting Summer guide me back into the car. My stomach was in knots from the dinner, and the name Leo Flynn was a thorn stuck in my mind. The car eventually pulled into a gated community even more opulent than her parents', stopping in front of a sprawling modern mansion that was clearly her own. "Your room is on the 2nd floor, next to mine," Summer said, dropping my duffel bag by the door. Her tone was flat, as if she were giving directions to a delivery driver. "I like a glass of warm milk before bed. I had the housekeeper prepare one for you, too. Make sure you drink it. If you don't like it, I won't have her make it again." I nodded numbly and dragged my bag upstairs. I pushed open the door to my room and was hit by a wave of luxury. The space was absurdly large, the carpet so thick my feet sank into it. But the most outrageous feature was the bed. It looked like something out of fairy tale, a massive, cloud-like monstrosity that seemed both inviting and predatory. I slept terribly. The expensive mattress was too soft, swallowing me whole. I tossed and turned all night, an ache settling deep into my bones. "Guess I'm just not cut out for the rich life," I muttered, kicking the sheets. In my drowsy state, I kept smelling a faint, pleasant fragrance in the air. It was familiar, a lot like Summer's perfume. I figured I just picked up the scent from being around her. The next morning, I woke up with dark circles under my eyes and noticed a massive, ornate mirror covering the entire wall opposite my bed. Nice design, I thought groggily. Makes the room look even bigger. After a shower, I walked around my room naked, getting dressed. I drank the milk the housekeeper had left for me, and then threw myself onto the bed. The full body ache and my exhaustion put me in a foul mood. A rebellious idea started to bloom. I fished the marriage certificate out of my wrinkled pants pocket. I stared at the picture of me and Summer, looking like two strangers forced into a photo booth. I took out my phone. Click. A perfect, clear photo of the certificate. Without a moment's hesitation, I opened WhatsApp and dropped the picture into my high school friends group chat and my college dorm group chat. 1 second. 2 seconds. The chats exploded. The high school group, a mix of guys and girls, instantly blew up with 99+ notifications. "Holy shit. Ethan, you sly dog. You got married without telling anyone. Who's the bride? This is so sudden. First one in our class to get hitched. Congrats, man." The college dorm chat, however, was on a whole other level. These guys knew I hadn't come back last night. They knew I was with a rich girl in the fancy car. No fucking way. No way. "Ethan, you actually did it. You became a trophy husband. An elopement. With a CEO. Dude, you've officially won the game of life. So does this mean no more late night wings with us? You gotta go home and do whatever rich people do." The messages were crude, direct, and exactly what I needed. Reading the flood of exclamation points and messages dripping with envy, the soreness in my back and the unease in my heart vanished. In its place grew a massive, heady sense of pride and satisfaction. I felt like I was floating, standing on top of the world. A wide grin spread across my face as my fingers flew across the screen. I typed a message into the dorm chat. "Knock it off, guys. Tonight, dive bar. Wings and pitchers are on me. We're drinking till we drop." The air in the bar was thick with the smell of sizzling hot sauce, stale beer, and cheap bravado. The four of us from the dorm were huddled around a sticky table, a graveyard of beer bottles and chicken bones growing between us. "To Ethan, to a life of luxury," My roommate, Mark, raised his glass, his face flushed. To Ethan, we all roared. The glasses clinked. The cold beer slid down my throat, and I felt myself getting lighter. The high from showing off was more potent than any alcohol. After a few rounds, the initial excitement faded, and a more somber mood settled over the table. Chris, who'd been quiet most of the night, let out a long sigh. I'm honestly so jealous, man. You graduated, and you're already set for life. The rest of us are still treading water. I clapped him on the shoulder. What are you talking about? A guy with your smarts could get a great job anywhere. He gave a bitter smile, shaking his head before taking another long pull from his beer. My parents wanted to go back home, get a state job. I don't want to, but they're getting older, and they just want me to be stable. He looked up, his eyes hazy with booze and confusion. I hate the idea of a life where you can see the end from the beginning. But what choice do I have? Not like you, Ethan. You're the real winner here. The other two nodded in agreement. Their gaze is a mixture of envy and awe. Seriously, Ethan's living the dream. One and done. We're out here fighting tooth and nail for jobs that barely pay rent, and Ethan's pulling in six figures with a CEO wife. Their words were like a drug, inflating my ego until I felt dizzy with it. I was being looked up to, admired. It was intoxicating. Come on, guys, we're all friends here. If you ever need anything, just let me know, I said, trying to sound humble. But inside, I was loving every second of it. Full of beer and wings, we stumbled out onto the street, slinging arms over shoulders, talking trash, and singing off-key. Suddenly, a sharp, imperious horn blast cut through the night. It was short and aggressive, not the sound of a regular car. We all turned. A black Mercedes S-Class was idling silently at the curb, its glossy paint gleaming like polished obsidian under the jaundiced streetlights. We all fell silent. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a face of cool, stunning beauty. It was Summer. She wore light makeup, her expression unreadable. Her lips parted, and she spoke two words. Get it? In that moment, the world went quiet. My friends' jaws were on the pavement. Their eyes were a cocktail of shock, envy, and a new, unspoken understanding. My face was burning. Under their collective gaze, I tried to play it cool. Well, guys, that's my ride. I'll catch you later. I pulled open the heavy car door and slid inside. The door shut with a solid, definitive thump. The car was filled with that same faint, elegant perfume. Summer didn't look at me. She stared straight ahead as the car pulled silently into traffic. The silence was so absolute, I could hear my own heart hammering against my ribs. We can't have you wasting your days like this, she said suddenly, her voice cool and detached. Starting tomorrow, you'll come to the office. You're going to be my executive assistant. My brain buzzed. What? Executive assistant? I was a contract husband. My job was to enjoy the money, not to actually work for it. This was supposed to be a golden ticket to a life of leisure, not a 9-to-5 desk job. I opened my mouth, ready to protest. Boss, the contract didn't say anything about. Summer finally turned her head and looked at me. Just one look. It was cold, sharp, and utterly devoid of emotion. She said nothing, but the words I was about to say died in my throat. Her eyes said it all. Do you have a problem with that? I immediately deflated. The car sped through the night, the city lights blurring into long, abstract streaks. I sank back into the plush leather seat, but I didn't feel relaxed at all. My life as an executive assistant began. I thought it would be fetching coffee and organizing files. I didn't realize it would also include surprise inspections of my personal life. One afternoon, Summer looked up from a mountain of paperwork, her tone leaving no room for argument. This weekend, we're visiting your parents. What? The coffee I was holding sloshed over the rim of the cup. My parents? Ms. Caldwell, you can't be serious. This is a contract marriage. We don't have to take it this far, do we? She put down her pen, lacing her fingers together and fixing me with a cold stare. When you put on a play, you see it through to the end. My parents need to see that we have a good relationship with your family. It's part of the contract. Have you forgotten? I hadn't forgotten. I just never imagined the web would extend all the way to my mom and dad. The Mercedes looked ridiculously out of place parked on the cracked asphalt of my parents' working-class neighborhood. Compared to her gated community, this place was a dump. I felt a hot flush of shame creep up my neck. Summer, however, seemed unfazed. She gracefully lifted bags and boxes from the trunk, each one wrapped so beautifully it looked like it belonged in a different universe. As we reached the front door of the apartment building, she stopped. Then, she reached out and took my hand. I went rigid, a jolt like a static shock running through me. Her hand was soft and cool. She turned her head, a perfect practiced smile gracing her lips. From now on, call me Summer. My parents' jaws dropped when they saw her. My mom, flustered, kept wiping her hands on her apron, unsure what to do. But Summer acted like she'd been coming here her whole life, her smile as radiant as a blooming peony. Mom, Dad, I'm so happy to finally meet you. That mom and dad was delivered with a sweetness and sincerity that was more convincing than my own. My parents were conquered on the spot. The gifts she brought sealed the deal. For my mom, a high-end skincare set and a fully automated massage chair. For my dad, a rare vintage chess set and a box of premium cigars. Every gift was a direct hit. After dinner, she played chess with my dad. His clumsy, amateur skills were no match for her, but she masterfully guided the game, making it seem like a close battle before making a final, careless mistake that allowed him to win by a hair. My dad was so delighted his mustache was practically quivering. He couldn't stop praising how brilliant she was. My mom pulled me into the kitchen, her expression deadly serious as she poked a finger into my chest. Ethan Cole, you tell me what good karma you have stored up to deserve a wife like this. I'm telling you, if you ever do anything to hurt Summer, I will break both your legs. I looked at my completely brainwashed mother and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who exactly was hurting whom here? That weekend, a grand-in-law summit was held at Summer's villa. My parents were as nervous as if they were meeting the president. But Summer's parents were disarmingly kind. Summer's father, the stoic titan of industry I'd seen on the news, actually invited my dad into his study for a private chess match. Summer's mother linked arms with my mom, chatting about gardening and recipes like they were long-lost sisters. The four of them ended up at a card table, playing a heated game of bridge. The sound of laughter and the shuffling cards filled the mansion. I stood off to the side, watching this surreal scene of domestic harmony, feeling like an alien. Amid the cheerful chaos, I happened to look up and my eyes met Summer's. She was standing across the room, holding a glass of red wine, watching me. Her face still wore a polite, social smile, but her eyes held no warmth. They held only a deep, bottomless calm, and beneath that calm was a surging, possessive fire that was aimed directly at me. A shiver of pure dread ran down my spine. With my parents thoroughly charmed by Summer, life settled into a strange, peaceful routine. I was her shadow, following her to and from the office, handling documents I barely understood. Our parents even formed their own weekly bridge club. Seeing my mom and dad laughing with my in-laws, I could almost forget that our entire life was a performance. Then about 3 months later, Summer dropped a bomb over dinner. She dabbed her lips with a napkin, her tone casual. My mom is coming to stay for a few days. Your mom is coming here? My voice cracked. What am I going to do? Should I go stay at the dorm for a few days? Summer put down her napkin and met my panicked gaze. Her eyes were calm, but they silenced me instantly. Hide! A flicker of amusement, or maybe scorn, touched her lips. Do you think my mother is a fool? A married couple sleeping in separate rooms? What do you think she'll conclude? My brain buzzed, and a horrible premonition took shape. Her next words confirmed it. Starting tonight, you're moving into my room. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands turning cold. That's not appropriate, Ms. Caldwell. We're faking this. The contract says. The contract also says the performance must be convincing. She cut me off, her voice dropping a few degrees. Or would you rather my mother finds out the truth, and you can kiss this month's $25,000 paycheck goodbye? There was again, the blatant financial threat, the one that always worked. What could I say? Like a defeated dog with its tail between its legs, I gathered my pillow and a few changes of clothes and moved into her sanctuary. Her bedroom was twice the size of mine, filled with that same perfume that now clung to my own clothes. The bed was even bigger, softer, and more intimidating, a vast expanse of white silk that looked like a cloud. I thought I'd be a nervous wreck, lying next to a beautiful woman, unable to sleep a wink. But the moment my head hit the pillow, breathing in that familiar, strangely calming scent, my eyelids felt like they were made of lead. I was out like a light. The next morning, I woke up to a symphony of pain. Oof! I groaned, pushing myself up. My back felt like it had been run over by a truck. A dull, aching weakness radiated from every joint. I glanced at the other side of the bed. Summer was already gone. Must be my cheap bones, I muttered to myself. Can't handle these fancy mattresses. I staggered to the bathroom. The man in the mirror looked awful, with dark, sunken circles under his eyes, like I'd been out all night partying. At breakfast, Summer's mother was already at the table. When she saw my haggard appearance, she didn't look concerned. She looked pleased. A deeply satisfied smile spread across her face, sending a chill down my spine. Ethan, dear, she said warmly, pushing a bowl of some dark, murky soup towards me. I made this special tonic for you. Young men need to know how to pace themselves. Take care of your body. I stared at the bowl, which smelled strongly of medicinal herbs, and my face turned beet red. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Beside me, Summer just sipped her oatmeal, a faint, unreadable smile on her lips. The next few days were pure hell. Every night, Summer would hand me a glass of warm milk, saying her mother insisted it would help me sleep. I didn't think anything of it and drank it down every time. And every time, I would pass out instantly, only to wake up in even more agony, feeling more drained than the day before. Meanwhile, Summer's mother would watch my physical decline with an increasingly radiant smile. She even took my hand one afternoon, her voice full of earnest advice. I'm so relieved to see you two are so happy together. I can finally rest easy knowing Summer is in good hands. All I could do was offer a weak, pained smile, feeling like a prize bull on display at the county fair. A few days later, her mother finally left, looking utterly content. As she stood by the door, I saw her exchange a quick, meaningful glance with Summer. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the strange feeling it gave me. The important thing was she was gone. I collapsed onto the sofa, letting out a long, shuddering sigh of relief. Even though I ached every morning, I had to admit, I was getting used to sleeping next to her. The scent of her perfume wasn't so bad. In fact, it was becoming comforting. The days bled into one another, time flowing like a river. Before I knew it, my contract marriage to Summer was approaching the 2-year mark. I had transformed from a broke college kid who couldn't sleep on a fancy mattress into a man who was perfectly comfortable with his status as a kept husband. One evening, I was sprawled on the couch when Summer came over, wrapped in a silk robe, toweling her damp hair. She sat down next to me, and the air filled with her familiar scent. She didn't look at me, her eyes fixed on the TV. Her voice was as casual as if she were commenting on the weather. My parents are getting impatient. They've set a date. We have to have a wedding. My heart jumped into my throat. I nearly shot up from the couch. A real wedding? She gave her usual, practiced response, a ghost of a smile on her lips that I could never quite decipher. We have to see the act through to the end. We can't let our parents find out, can we? The massive, complicated machinery of wedding planning began to turn. Just as I was getting overwhelmed by flower arrangements and catering menus, Summer's mother cornered me for a private chat. She summoned me to the garden one afternoon, dismissing the staff. The usual doting look she gave me was gone, replaced by a deep, serious worry. Ethan, she began, her voice low and urgent. There's something I have to warn you about. Leo Flynn. I hear he's coming back to the States. I have a feeling he's coming back specifically for Summer's wedding. You need to be very, very careful. Leo Flynn. The name exploded in my mind like a thunderclap. The man I'd first heard about at that disastrous dinner. The one that got away. My purpose, my entire function in this charade, became crystal clear. I was the final act, a tool to provoke the real love of her life. This wedding wasn't for us. It was a grand performance stage for an audience of one, Leo Flynn. And in that moment, I felt no anger, no humiliation, only a pure, overwhelming wave of joy that shot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. My payday was finally here. I was about to be rich. From that day on, I started watching Summer like a hawk. And everything confirmed my theory. She started coming home later and later. The dark circles under her eyes grew more pronounced. She was constantly exhausted. Is the wedding planning really that much work? I asked one night, feigning concern. She rubbed the bridge of her nose, forcing a tired smile. Of course, I had you handle things at the office, so a big event like this is all on me. It's not easy trying to please both sets of parents. It was the perfect excuse. To me, it was just a cover for her secret meetings with her old flame. You're a terrible liar, I thought, a cold smile forming in my mind. But my face showed nothing but sympathy. You're working too hard, Summer. A plan began to form, rapidly and with beautiful clarity. I couldn't just wait around to be fired. I had to take control. I would disappear right before the wedding. That way, she could cancel the whole thing, no questions asked, and run off with her precious Leo. And I, after a quiet divorce and a hefty settlement, on top of the small fortune I'd already amassed, would be free. Free to live a life of leisure on my own terms. My secret operation began. Step 1. Handle my parents. I used my own savings to book them a luxury, round-the-world cruise, telling them it was an early 30th anniversary gift. Mom, Dad, please don't say a word to the Caldwells. I urged them, my face a mask of sincerity. I want to surprise them with something nice later, too. They were so moved they were nearly in tears, promising to keep my secret. Step 2, my job. I became a model employee, a sudden whirlwind of productivity. I stayed late, tied up every loose end, and cleared my desk of all responsibilities. I wanted to leave behind the image of a perfect, diligent husband and employee. Everything was in place. That night, I lay in bed next to Summer. I breathed in that familiar scent that had caused me so many sleepless nights and aching mornings. But this time, my heart was perfectly calm. I secretly opened my phone under the covers. The screen's glow illuminated the irrepressible grin on my face. There, in my email, was a one-way ticket to a small, tropical island. Goodbye, Summer. Once I get my money, I'll never have to depend on you again. As the plane broke through the clouds, leaving the glittering lights of the city far below, I leaned against the window, a grin stretching from ear to ear. Goodbye, Summer. Goodbye, a six-figure salary for being a living prop. Ethan Cole was free. To make my escape foolproof, I'd booked a series of connecting flights, finally landing on a tiny Caribbean island that was barely a speck on the map. The next 2 weeks were heaven. During the day, I lounged on golden sand, sipping from chilled coconuts and watching beautiful women in bikinis laugh and splash in the turquoise water. At night, I drank with tourists from all over the world at beachside bars, feasting on fresh-caught seafood. I even splurged and rented a yacht for a day. Lying on the deck, the salty sea spray on my face, I had only one thought. As soon as the wedding was officially called off, I would go back, finalize the divorce, play the victim, and walk away with my $1 million settlement. Even if that failed, the money I already had would last me a lifetime. I was a genius. One night, I had a little too much rum. I stumbled back from the bar to my hotel room, collapsed onto the bed, and passed out. I woke up to a splitting headache. I groaned, trying to roll over, but my body felt like it was encased in lead. I couldn't move. My eyes shot open. The sight before me sobered me up faster than a bucket of ice water. My wrists and ankles were bound, the restraints cold against my skin. I was spread-eagled, tied securely to a ridiculously soft, oversized bed. This wasn't my hotel room. The air was thick with that familiar, cloying perfume that had been the backdrop to my life for 2 years. I darted my eyes around in a panic. The opulent silk sheets, the Gothic-style carved headboard, and then I saw the wall to my left. The blood in my veins turned to ice. The wall was a shrine. It was plastered floor to ceiling with photos of me. Me in kindergarten, grinning foolishly while playing in a sandbox. Me in middle school, sweaty and flushed, carrying a girl with a sprained ankle on my back. Me in college, captured mid-jump shot on the basketball court. Me at graduation, arm in arm with my dorm mates, laughing like an idiot. Every moment of my life, eating, sleeping, playing sports, riding a bike, had been documented by a stalker. Oh my God, she's insane. A complete psychopath. The word screamed in my head. Just as I was about to lose control of my bladder, the blankets next to me stirred. A head of messy, dark hair slowly emerged. It was Summer. She was wearing a black silk nightgown, her hair fanned out over her shoulders. Her beautiful face was flushed with a sick, ecstatic glow. She looked at me like I was a priceless artifact she had just acquired, her long, slender fingers reaching out to gently trace the lines of my face. Her touch moved from my chin to my nose to my eyes. Her fingertips were cool, but her movements burned with a feverish obsession. I could feel her ragged breathing, her hot, moist breath ghosting across my face, my lips. My throat was sandpaper. I forced a smile that felt like my face was cracking. Summer, what is this? She didn't answer. She just stared at me with those wild, mesmerizing eyes and whispered, her voice like a dream, I loved you so much. Why did you run away? Did you want to leave me that badly? The next second, she picked up a remote from the nightstand and pointed it at the wall in my old bedroom, the one I thought had the big mirror. With a soft click, the mirror dissolved. It wasn't a mirror at all. It was a two-way window. The wall behind it lit up, turning into a massive screen. And on that screen were videos of me from the past 2 years. Me, walking around my room naked after a shower. Me, tossing and turning in bed, complaining that the mattress was too soft. Me, squeezing a pimple in the mirror, talking to myself. Every private, embarrassing moment had been recorded and was now being played back for me, like a public execution. I was speechless. She was completely unhinged. I felt my dignity being ground into dust under her heel. My survival instinct kicked in, and I let out one final, desperate plea. You got the wrong guy. My name is Ethan. I'm not Leo Flynn. Hearing my words, Summer threw her head back and let out a breathless, deranged laugh, her cheeks flushing a deeper red. I was never looking for Leo. She leaned in close, her voice a possessive whisper. I was always looking for you, Ethan. And then she crushed her lips to mine. It wasn't a kiss. It was a conquest, an act of possession, a branding. A raw, bloody taste filled my mouth as she bit my lip, staking her claim in the most primal way possible. A day later, my body felt like it had been disassembled and poorly put back together. I didn't have the strength to lift a finger. Summer lay curled against my chest like a contented cat, tracing lazy circles on my skin. The familiar perfume in the air was now so thick it was suffocating. "Do you remember?" she whispered, her voice soft and dreamlike. "The first time we met wasn't on that mountain in middle school." My mind was a blank slate. I could only turn my head to look at her. It was in 3rd grade. I got lost and wandered into your neighborhood. Her eyes grew distant, lost in a long-ago afternoon. I was in 5th grade, a little older than you. I couldn't find my way home, and I was crying. There was no one else around. Just you, a silly little boy playing in a sandbox. You saw me crying, and you ran over to me. You told me, "Don't cry, big sister. If you can't find your mom, you should wait right here." And then you played with me all afternoon, building me a sandcastle to make me smile. When the police finally found me and were driving me away, you ran after the car, shouting, "Come back and play with me again." Okay. She lifted her head, and her beautiful eyes burned with a fanaticism that terrified me. "It was you who said it first. You promised you'd marry me when you grew up." From that moment on, she purred, "I vowed that such a sweet, adorable little boy had to be locked away, kept safe, where he could belong only to me." A wave of ice washed over me from my scalp to my toes. "So, the hiking trip." My voice was a dry rasp. "I faked the sprained ankle," she said with a smile that was both innocent and cruel. "I knew you were a good person. I knew you'd carry me. I hated all those other girls who were always chattering around you. They were so loud. I had to have you for myself." My blood ran cold. Every act of kindness, every chance encounter in my life had been a meticulously laid trap. I made one last, desperate attempt to find solid ground. "But Leo Flynn? What about Leo?" Summer scoffed, a look of pure disdain on her face. "Him? He was just a convenient shield. My parents were trying to set me up in an arranged marriage. I needed an excuse. He's gay and needed a cover story of his own." She leaned in, her breath a hot, tempting whisper against my ear. "Do you know where he went? Thailand. He's living his truth. In fact, he's coming back for the wedding to introduce his new boyfriend to his family." In that instant, my world didn't just crack. It shattered into a million pieces of dust. Seeing the dawning horror and utter defeat on my face, the love and possessiveness she had suppressed for over a decade erupted once more. She leaned down, her warm lips brushing against my ear, her voice a sweet, syrupy poison that left no room for escape. "And now it's time to punish you." Later, we had the wedding. It was a lavish, magnificent affair. All our friends and family were there, and I played my part, smiling and going through the motions as a tidal wave of congratulations washed over us. In the crowd, I saw him. Leo, or perhaps Leah now. She was dressed in an elegant women's pantsuit, and sitting next to her was a handsome, beaming young man. They were holding hands, completely lost in their own world. I finally understood. This wedding was never a performance for anyone else. It was my coronation, the day I was officially crowned as hers. Years later, I became the vice president of Zenith Dynamics, standing shoulder to shoulder with Summer as one half of the business world's most envied power couple. We had a beautiful daughter with my eyes and Summer's smile. Summer adored her. One sunny afternoon, I was in the garden playing with our daughter when Summer came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist in her usual way. My daughter looked up, her little head tilted in curiosity. "Daddy, why does Mommy always hug you from behind?" I paused and smiled. I turned in her embrace, kissed Summer on the forehead, and then looked down at my daughter. "Because Mommy's afraid Daddy will run away." Summer looked at me, her eyes filled with a love so deep it was almost tangible. She leaned in, her lips close to my ear, and whispered in a voice meant only for me, "So, are you still running?" I pulled my wife and daughter into a tight embrace. "No, I'm not running anymore. I can't. You caught me. The only thing left to do is stay right here by your side."